What are you doing here?
I'm here to save you.
Get out of here! Let me handle this!
We're not leaving you!
Smoke pellets, huh? Not bad, but it would have been better if she used...
Pocket sand!
I guess that foreshadowing from Triple Threat came into play sooner than I thought, as To Change a Changeling is about Thorax and Starlight looking for a way to reform his brother, Pharynx. This is actually a good idea for an episode as it provides a new opportunity to build upon the Changeling's new role in the show, developing Thorax's character and introducing us to some new ones. So does this episode handle those elements well? Let's see. Starlight and Trixie decide to pay a visit to Thorax at the Hive, but on the way there, they're ambushed by a rogue changeling who turns out to be Thorax's brother named Pharynx. He still believes in feeding off of love and resorts to causing trouble for everyone else, so Starlight and Trixie are tasked with helping Pharynx to accept the change. Unfortunately, changing him for the better seems to be an impossible feat, as Starlight resorts to drastic and very idiotic measures. The episode's humor is actually pretty good. There's a number of well-timed jokes that don't distract from the story, and they have a subtle way of playing off the characters with its use of dialogue. One of them is even layered to play an important role in the story, so it doesn't come across as a pointless gag. They're not really funny jokes, but they're placed into the episode in a good way, so the story has a decent balance of humor and pacing. And because the conflict is established very early on, it gives the episode more time to build upon it and express how it's affecting the characters. It takes its time showing Starlight and Trixie discussing how to approach the issue and how Thorax is worried about the discord that Pharynx is causing. Even making Starlight and Trixie the main characters is a sensible choice. They relate to Thorax's social exclusion and Pharynx's approach to change from past experiences. And one of the things they try to teach Pharynx is how you can adapt to something new and allow your life to be better with a different perspective. And because of their connection with Thorax and involvement in overthrowing Chrysalis, it makes them fit into the setting more than anyone else. The episode also does a nice job adding depth to both Thorax and Pharynx as the story unfolds. Thorax's passive behavior towards his brother is made justifiable when you see how he relates to him, expressing loyalty and respect for Pharynx for defending him in childhood and trying to get him to be tougher. We also see how he's being trusted with a lot of responsibility at this point, not only leading a kingdom but helping it develop into something else. It's a great risk for him to be involved in since his leadership taking a wrong turn could lead to the Changeling siding with Chrysalis again. His leadership has an important role in the overall lore now, and seeing him take his position seriously while putting time into giving his kind a fresh start is intriguing to say the least. And the progression that Pharynx goes through is a very understandable development. Even when he was teasing his brother when they were kids, he showed a desire to protect him and motivate him to be stronger, and he believes that this more passive nature that the Changelings developed has made them and his brother pushovers, which was something that he was trying to get him to grow out of. He dislikes the idea of the Changelings sacrificing their pride and predatorial nature in favor of a change so sudden and so in conflict with everything he was raised to believe in. He even brings up a good point that with the Changelings growing into something more passive and non-confrontational, they would be unprepared and unable to defend themselves. But even though he shows dislike for this new change, he doesn't completely give up on them or Thorax. He was concerned for the Hive and wanted to ensure its safety before leaving. And he doesn't leave because he hates the Hive now, it's because he knows that his old way of thinking wouldn't fit in anymore. Even after all this change, he still has the same desire to defend his brother and believe in what's best for his Hive. And his reformation as a Changeling has a unique spin on it. Instead of just learning how to give love, he needed to learn how to accept love. And accepting the love from the new Changeling Hive and accepting these changes allows him to find a new place in the Hive and even transform. What I really love about Pharynx is how he's a good example of a gray character. He still cared about others, but his way of doing things contradicts the meaning of the show, which paints him in a morally center area. The developing culture of the Changelings also has a reason to it. It's not really interesting in the same way the Yak culture wasn't interesting, but that's because it's still progressively building into something different with Thorax's leadership. Creating a new culture from the ground up is a really long step-by-step process, and the episode expresses expresses the development of an idea in a modest way. We also learn a bit more about them, like how they used to feed off of plant life, which I suppose does make sense since they needed to eat something while hiding out and searching for creatures to feed off in secret. There's a small but still present insight on changeling breeding by mentioning pharynx interacting with smaller and younger ones. And we see that they can eat regular food like everyone else, they just need to learn to get used to it. Plus, knowing that the changelings can change not only form but also gain strength from it is a pretty intimidating detail, which makes them being on the good side all the more important. There is one reoccurring problem in the episode's second half. Starlight is not handled very well, making her out to be very absent-minded. She's very thoughtless and makes poor decisions, which is contradictory to her development as Twilight's pupil. To put it simply, she ends up making the problem worse before it gets any better. The scene where she decides to give up on Pharynx feels like it's happening way too fast. Maybe if it was later in the episode and there were more failed attempts to change him, it would make more sense. But neither of those ends up happening, and it makes Starlight look like she's just drawing conclusions and looking for an easy way out. Even her plan to lure the creature out and get Pharynx to defend his brother doesn't make any sense. What if Pharynx can't defeat it? She would have potentially doomed the entire hive for a plan that wouldn't have even worked. Even though the episode acknowledges Starlight's faults, it doesn't highlight any ways that she could have worked around them, which makes her look like an idiot. There are some other good bits in the episode, like Trixie's boasting and sarcastic mocking, which is handled a lot better here than in All Bottled Up. She comes across as less annoying and more honest since she's shown to actually be paying attention and offering her thoughts on the situation. And her attitude doesn't make the problem worse, which makes it easier to tolerate. It's also kinda funny seeing how she points out Starlight's flaws and was actually right about some of the foreshadowing she put out. And Pharynx's design at the end is actually the most creative and fitting changeling design since Chrysalis left. This dark green color palette mixed in with solid purple and faded red resonates much more with Pharynx himself than the original color layout of the changelings in their previous form. They also made him shorter with smaller horns, which feels a lot less distracting. A design like this feels more in tune with the original changeling look while still looking different in a unique way. And with the colors being darker and less bright, it helps Pharynx to stand out more, which makes sense since he's going to be second in command from now on. To Change a Changeling was actually a pretty nice episode for a story that was mostly by the numbers with its premise. The characters were very well developed, at least most of them were. Some of the comedy was really humorous, and adding more to the changelings to further develop them and implement them into the world of the show is done in a very nice way. It's an episode that I'll certainly be seeing again sometime soon. MisAnthro Pony, over and out.